Movie number 4, and now we're almost ready to export ePub. There's only one little extra thing we need to do. Now if I just scroll through the page here, particularly to the first page, one thing, the way that InDesign, when it goes to ePub, the way it works, it's in a standard mode, which is sort of a layout mode when it's exported to ePub. Now what that means, if I just grab hold of my ruler like so, just imagine this ruler coming down, it reflects on whatever it hits at the top, as well as what's ever on the left. And I hit this little logo first. When you have a different array of objects, etc. in here, if it's all part of the same layout in terms of, or article that we've got here, or a continuous inline text, it's going to probably hold together quite well. But if you've got a whole lot of separate objects, whatever is on the left will be basically determined as being a higher priority than anything that's further in the inside. So if you had a whole lot of different graphics, but particularly if you were having 1, 2, 3 separate graphics before you got to your major text, they'd actually appear right down the bottom, because that's the way the layout works. It'll hit the things on the left first. To counter this problem, or it's not really a problem, but to make sure you get what you want, even if you've got lots of separate images and graphics, etc., we've worked in a much more effective way, because we've actually just got our cover and our flowing text, but nonetheless you'd put them into an articles panel. Now we're in typography view here, and we don't have anything listed in articles, but we can add this to it by just going up to Windows and down to Articles, and you'll notice that just says no content is here, but just drag stories and objects here. Well, by default I'll just keep mine down here, but when you want to open it up, or even if you want to use it, it stays handy, and you can actually save this as a workspace. Nonetheless, we've got our articles panel, so let's just see how easy it is to work with. What I'm going to do here is, this is a grouped object, being all the contents within the cover. So I'm on the pointer tool here. All I need to do is click, and as I drag in here, you see how it becomes a plus, and I'll let go. I'm just going to call that cover, because that's what it is. Hit the return key, and we've got cover. Now make sure you don't get anything mixed up when you put another object in here to outline your articles. I always just minimize my triangle here, so there's nothing that's going to get mixed up. Now the next thing to do is nice and easy, rather than plus and add in, is just drag it in again. And as I mentioned before, we've done it in a very clean, the best way to do it by having it all in line within text. But as I mentioned, if you did have different graphics you want to add, then just add them in the order you want them. And this counters this layout mode. You'll see it when we export shortly to ePub. Anyway, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this whole thing in here, let go, and I'm just going to call it article, make it nice and easy, and just close that up. And whether it's one page with the article or 1,000 pages, that's all we need to do, because we've got flowing text that goes all the way through there. This all links up, and that's all we need to do, so you can see how easy it is and why it is better to work in this method. Nonetheless, you could do it by just dragging a range of objects into the article panel to counter that. So I'm just going to go and save that now. File save. We're ready to actually go to number 6, which is, or actually number 7. We've done our articles set up, and number 7 is just exporting. So we're almost there. So if I just go File, Export, and of course, so what I want is I want to export it to ePub. So make sure you click ePub, not EPS, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it as it is there, and just go Save. I'm just going to replace the one I had there before. You'll probably be creating a new one. Now, if you do need to amend, just come back and amend it and just replace it each time. It's really that quick to do at each stage. But anyway, I'll just go Replace, and we're going to get this ePub dialog box. Now this is where you just have to make sure you do a few things based on what we've done previously. Let's see, ePub version 3, well that's what we want, because that's going to stay with all the latest features. Our custom anchor, and our, let's see what else have we got in there. With ePub 3 we've got special type, basically HTML5 type. Now that's really one additional feature, which is a really good feature, having your own type in there, not letting it go haywire. So we've got ePub 3, and it's probably the best version to go to now. So ePub 3, let's see what else. Customize first page, yes, we want that, but this is where you could actually choose an image if you don't have your page, your cover, like we've already done it. So we're in InDesign, so we're sorted. But other programs you might have to choose an image, or if you want to do it this way, you could as well. But anyway, not to worry, we've got customize first page. Navigation. Well, what's this? This is where we created our table of contents earlier on. Because we'd created it earlier on, we should have it here. And I'm just going to go to TOC style, and there it is. TOC ePub, what we named it. So that's what we want. We're now going to have a contents page. If you don't do that, you won't have a contents page. You can play around with your margins, but we actually sorted that out in a much better fashion by doing it with your paragraph styles. Remember, we just add a little bit of extra leading, if you will, or space just between each of the paragraphs to give it a bit more finesse. But you have an option here, but as I mentioned, I think it's a lot easier just doing it in your paragraph styles. You'll get a better result. Content order based on page layout. That's what I was talking about just before, which actually really doesn't work too well. We want to base it on, yes, you guessed it, articles. If we didn't set up the article like we did there, it would just be grayed out. Don't worry about XML. Articles panels is the way to do it these days. So that's basically all we need to do. Of course, we want to tick view the ePub after viewing, at least in our general mode. Let's go to our image mode. Remember, we brought everything in as about 300 DPI. Well, this is where we could actually go to that maximum, but by default it jumps to 150 now, and that's probably the best viewing option for most devices now. So just leave it at that, and it's going to make everything, all your images, basically 150 DPI. So everything else can stay nicely there. Let's just have a look down here. Image size fixed, that's great. You could play around with these and see what you get, but generally it does the best setup for you. And I'm not going to worry about image alignment and spacing, but you could play around with these things as well. Okay, you can even click on Insert Break, and you can actually break it before or after the image here if you wanted to. But I'm going to leave this because we've got another way of sorting out what I want to do a little bit further on, which is in the advanced settings. Okay, so I'm going to leave these as they are. Good quality, progressive, that's great. Let's go to advanced now. Split document, do not split. Well, yes, I want to split the document, in my case anyway, that at each subhead, which is basically the chapter head and the way I've named it in the paragraph styles, I want it to be on a new page. So I want to split it at the subhead here. Okay. Publisher, well, remember right at the beginning of the info, we actually, well, you could put the publisher name here, but where we wanted to name the document, we did that when we went to the file info when we first set up InDesign. You get a unique ID name here, and the publisher could be something that you might need to put in if that's required. Otherwise, I'm not going to worry about that. Coming down here to CSS options, well, if you're a whiz in CSS, that's great, but we've actually created it by doing what we did with all the settings we put into our InDesign document. So I'm going to leave it and let it generate its own CSS, because that's what we did before. Anything down here? No, I think we've got everything sorted now. We've just done our split subhead, and I think we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm now going to go, I'm not going to about JavaScript or anything that's tricky, I'm just going to go OK. It's going to go through and it should actually open our ePub. Now here we go, it's just open on the first page. So if I can drag mine in just a bit. So there it is, and you can actually use the slider and go to all the pages, okay? Page 1, page 2, page 3. You see we've got that nice little, I suppose, paragraph space. All our type has been retained, including there's our chart. I didn't put as many images in perhaps as I could have, But of course our subhead split on each new page. But let's go right to the end here, and we've even got our video. So I'll just go all the way through to the, oops, one too far. And of course our video plays as well. So this is just the viewer on Maverick on the Mac. Of course this looks a lot better in your iPad or device. I can click back here as well if I want. Of course we've got up here our text, so I can actually change night or day, white, or change to a different font if I do want to read it. But of course I've set it up to my idea set up anyway, but anybody reading it can change that. Of course they can change their fonts, bookmark it, and a range of other tools. Additionally, over here we've got our contents. We're highlighted here on page 27, but I'll jump to another area, click back up here, and as you see that works fine, even all the way to the end there, because that was sorted out with my subheads. That'll look a lot better, as I mentioned before, on a device, but nonetheless we're all sorted. If you do want to go back and tweak your ePub, just go back and play with the settings and just export it again. As simple as that. The last movie, which will just be movie number 5, I'll just show you how to do a package and package of InDesign. If you wanted to pass this an original document over with fonts and all, that somebody else can work on it to do based on whatever you're setting up, based on your design with all the right fonts, etc. Movie 5 coming up.